I'm joined by Atul Kashyap now. He's President, US-India Business Council. Appreciate you joining us. Mr. Kashyap, give us a sense. Do you share Siddharth's hope that the Trump-Modi meet might address some of these crucial concerns that are being raised? Every time Donald Trump puts out a tariff threat, the markets get spooked.
So, Rajdeep, first of all, I think that it's very important that Prime Minister Modi is among the very first leaders to visit President Trump in Washington in the very early days of his second administration. That is not an accident or a coincidence. I think it is a reflection of how important India is and how much regard there is between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. So on that basis and that basis alone, a very great deal can be achieved. And what my organization, the US-India Business Council, has persistently called for is ambition between both governments and both leaders in order to break through some of the plateau that has been experienced by US-India trade and to take us to the next level. At the end of the day, we're two of the most dynamic and robust societies on earth. Our economic growth is much better than our other competitors and peers. And so we ought to double that. We ought to unleash the animal spirits of both of our free nations. And I think that both leaders can do that if they work seriously on some of the issues of concern on both sides. And this is where friends meet, they talk. I'm a diplomat. Talking's what we do, but the talking should be toward a noble purpose. And if that means that we can achieve a limited trade deal that unleashes the capabilities of both of our societies and helps us ensure our stability and security, then both leaders will have done a great service to America, India, and the world.
But with due regard, we've been hearing of this limited trade deal even in Trump's first presidency. Didn't happen. Do you believe things will be different? If anything, Mr. Trump this time seems more inclined to get tough with the world and possibly India as well.
Well, diplomacy is based on reciprocity. And what the president and his advisors are talking about is reciprocity in terms of their tariff treatments. And if you look at the situation in India, you know, U.S. companies and the U.S. government have for a long time felt that India's tariffs and non-tariff barriers are some of the highest in the world. And they make it very hard to increase the volume of trade and prosperity for both of our countries. So this is where, you know, friends have to understand where we're coming from. They have to understand our perspective, and then we can work as friends to try to address these issues. I think that if India actually reduces some of its tariffs and non-tariff barriers, it'll actually help Indian companies become more globally competitive. It'll drive more FDI into India. It'll create more jobs. It'll be good for both of us. And so I think President Trump has a point. You know, we ought to talk about reciprocal treatment.
So you're looking for a win-win. A report by Nomura says India is considering reducing tariffs on more than 30 items, increasing its purchases of U.S. defense and energy products. There will be those out here in this country who would say that India is bending backwards to appease the United States, that we are sort of almost spooked by Trump and therefore are ready to do whatever he wants.
Well, that's a political spin, and I don't agree with that. I think that the U.S. and India, as the two greatest free countries on earth, ought to be looking always at win-win outcomes for both of our people. And I think that's the perspective from Washington, and that ought to be the perspective from Delhi and Mumbai and other parts of India. There is a lot that we need to do to break through all of these bureaucratic barriers that tie us down, frankly. And if you see how much reinvention is happening in America to make government operations more efficient, maybe that kind of introspection can be good. I mean, think about all of the ways that we sort of take for granted our stagnant trade relationship. I'm impatient to break through that. Governments have that power. And so the idea that, you know, on the spin that you offered, I don't agree with it. I think that governments should take proactive steps to optimize their economies and ensure the efficiency and productivity of their economies by taking systemic reform steps that are good for the people and good for the government.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there, Atul. I appreciate you joining us. We'll hear more from you and others in 2 days from now when Prime Minister Modi is in Washington. But for now, thanks very much for joining me there, the President of USIBC.